Muy buenas tardes a todos los chingones y chingonas de nuestra comunidad. This is El Pueblo Unido, your favorite podcast, obviously. We have a very special episode today. Mother's Day obviously passed a couple of weeks ago, but those of us here at GALEO, we're not done celebrating the moms, las abuelas, and all the other folks who are mothers in their community. So we have some very special guests. But first, you might notice that Marifer is not with us today. She was not unavailable for today's episode, but no worries. We have the next best thing. We have a wonderful coworker of ours, Anna, with us. So, Anna, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers?
Muchas gracias. Hola, hola. So yes, I'm Anna. I can still say the new member of the leadership team, and I am honored to fill in for Marifer while she's out. So yeah, I'm excited about this episode and being a part of the podcast.
Yeah, welcome, Anna. Glad to have you here. And yeah, like Kyle said, like everyone in Galeo is very supportive. So if anyone wants to jump in, we'll take the rounds. My name is Alberto Reyes. Buenas tardes a todos en este Taco Tuesday. Kyle, I'm a community organizer. Kyle, what do you do?
You go, well, I'm our director of policy and advocacy, but we are also the co-hosts for El Pueblo Unido. So we have a great episode for everyone today. So go ahead, Alberto, send us off. Or not. I'll do it. We have a great episode for you. We'll be right back with El Pueblo Unido. Somos El Pueblo Unido, and we'll be right back.
Hey, did you know there's primaries on June 17th?
I heard about them.
Yeah, it's the Public Service Commission.
Yes,
primaries.
thank you, everyone. Somos El Pueblo Unido, and we'll be right back.
What? Who doesn't know? Oh my gosh.
Well, if you don't know, the Public Service Commission is important because they help Georgians be treated fairly and not overcharged when it comes to gas and electric companies across the state.
Wow, so how can I even check if I'm registered to vote and where to vote?
Yeah, you can go to mbp.sos.ga.gov to check your polling location and your registration.
Awesome. Remember, that's mbp.sos.ga.gov.
Thank you. See you guys at the polls.
Let's get out there and vote.
Bye.
All right. And we are back. I don't know if Alberto's tech issues are resolved, but this segment is our Lo que nos importa, where we talk about the things that we're seeing in the news that matter to us and we think matter to our community. So first, want to highlight that we have our Power Hour on May 29th, where folks can come and celebrate the work that we're doing here at GALEO. And support the work that we're doing at GALEO. We have some raffles, and of course there will be food, drinks, and dancing. So everybody loves to dance. Anna, I'm really looking forward to our Power Hour.
Yeah, it's my first one, so I'm really excited. And I've been looking at the playlist, which you guys can add music. Just go to our Instagram, and I'm getting excited, honestly. And it's great celebrating the Latino community overall. So
absolutely, we love any opportunity we can get to celebrate not just the work that we're doing, but the resilience and the many contributions that our broader Latino community makes to the success of the state of Georgia. I want to move on to another important thing that's going on. Obviously, if you're following us on social media, we are making posts about the upcoming Public Service Commission elections. These are really important elections. The first Public Service Commission elections held here in the state of Georgia in 5 years. And so this is a really important opportunity for folks to make their voice heard. And we'll be able to vote on two different Public Service Commission elections in two different districts, although that will be open to the entire state to vote in. And so we just want to highlight the importance of that, because the Public Service Commission has a real world impact on, utilities and, and things that, all of us think about and care about, from keeping the lights on to the water running and whatever else. And so we've got, the primary election is coming up on June 17th. So please make a plan to vote, and continue to follow us on our socials, where you can get some more information about those elections. Anna, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, actually, now that you mention it, so for people to know, can they still register to vote, just to, make sure that they're registered to vote?
Yeah, so that's really important. I don't recall the voter registration deadline. That's why I wanted to have Alberto here, because he's following all the election dates. But you can check your voter registration on the Secretary of State's site. And we definitely are encouraging everyone to do that, especially since we know that the Secretary of State is looking to remove more than 500,000 voters from the voter rolls. So especially if you haven't voted in recent elections, please do make sure that you are up to date on your your voter information. And Alberto, Ana just asked a great question about voter registration. Is it too late to register to vote? And yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, so actually I disconnect because I run to my local voting building to ask more information. I came back, and yes, unfortunately the deadline to register to vote was yesterday. And I'm sure that the conversation was about the Public Service Commission elections coming soon. But as you mentioned, people can check their registration status, and that's very important to continue being involved. So unfortunately, the registration is closed. But if you know anybody that is registered or is wondering, then we have that information available for them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Alberto's on our civic engagement team, so all questions elections related, they can help you answer those questions. I also want to move on to another topic. Alberto's our community organizer up in Dalton in Whitfield County in Northwest Georgia, and there's been some really tragic news that's been that we've been following out of there. With the arrest and detention of Jimena up in Dalton, who was detained when there was no reason to detain her, and she came to this country as a young woman. She's a college student, and as far everything I've read up and heard about her, just a really wonderful person who has a real heart for her community. And it's terrible to see that she's when she did nothing wrong, is now being detained. Alberto, you're up in Dalton. Please, share with us, what are you seeing? Well, how's the community feeling up there right now?
Yeah, definitely. The community has shown support. Casey Carpenter, representative, has give interviews in support of Jimena. Quick update: today is her hearing. So yeah. We'll ask everyone in the community to keep the family in prayers, or keep the good thoughts about it. But yeah, so we will expect a positive outcome.
How can people support?
Well, just continue sharing her story. Connect more with if any other person would like to learn more about how the immigrant community makes a positive impact economically, social in Georgia. Like get erase that rhetoric of how she arrived here when she was young. She's a college student, involved in the community. So there are many ways to support.
And I think I did see a GoFundMe for her, so that folks can contribute to her as she's going to need funds to maintain legal representation and work through her case. So I don't know if we posted that on our social media, but please, folks, if you can, please consider donating and contributing to that GoFundMe. And I think this speaks to a larger issue of the reality that we aren't seeing, as sometimes the rhetoric would lead folks to believe, that bad actors and criminals and people who are hurting our community, these are not the folks who are being targeted. Unfortunately, we're seeing, people like Hiram, who are, just trying to live life and grow and build a life, and contribute to their local communities. These are the folks who are being torn away from their homes, and put through such a traumatic experience and process. So our community deserves better, and our community is demanding better.
Yes.
I think the big message of this whole thing between elections, Power Hour, and supporting human, I think it's how important community is. We need to support our Latino community. We need to support our neighbors. We need to support each other, because that's the only way we can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, right now our community is everything. And so we need to stay together, stick together, and remember our voice and remember our power. And like you said, Anna, elections are where we can show some of that power. And so let's get some good practice in by voting in the Public Service Commission election.
Exactly. So that was a great segment. And now we will be right back with our special guest, Gigi Pedraza. So stick around, everyone. El Pueblo Unido. We'll be right back.
Hey friends, you know what I'm excited about? Our upcoming Latino Power Hour on May 29th. Come dance with me as we celebrate our growing power as a community in Georgia. Did you know that in 2024, our electorate grew by 29%, putting us closer to 500,000 registered Latino voters in Georgia? I'd say that's plenty reason for us to celebrate. Don't miss out. Get your tickets today. See you there.
And we're back. Hola, Gigi. ¿Qué? Feliz Día de las Madres. Todos los días son Día de las Madres.
Gracias por la invitación.
Yeah. So tell our audience a little bit, before we start the interview, a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Gigi My real name is Hilda Rosa Pedraza Moron. But like many immigrants, right, when you come, you leave half of your heart and your life and, maybe, half of who you are. So I had to drop my name because it didn't fit in any way. So here I am, Gigi Pedraza.
Okay.
And I run the Latino Community Fund. She's a nonprofit organization, nonpartisan. We do a lot of direct services. We're a philanthropic intermediary. We also do a lot of advocacy with you guys, particularly with GALEO. Then we have 2 daughters.
That's amazing. So let's start with the questions. As you mentioned, you have 2 daughters. So as a mother and a leader in the community, what is a win that, big or small, that you have stays with you?
As a mother, I think that something really important is my kids are curious about other communities, curious about learning, about, things and people they don't understand, they may not be familiar with. That's something that definitely, I think if we had lived in any other place or if I had done any other type of work, it wouldn't be as prevalent. So to me, that's, really, really significant. And, it gives me a lot of hope that if you are curious and, want to learn more and are open, you're going to be better to, better connect with other communities, with other people you may not understand, and you may be able to build bridges and, have lots of friends. So yeah.
Well, Gigi, first of all, it's great to meet you, even if it's virtually, and I'm excited to know more about you, including, what's one tradition or value from your mama or abuela that you carry with you today?
Oh, I love this question because my grandmother, she died a few years ago, but something that she always did is that she always asked me, what cake did I want for my birthday? And she will make that cake, right? And my mother was a lot more strict, whatever. So she didn't carry that, but it was such a special thing that I feel like so spoiled, you know, que me engreía, and like she would, you know, I would like, I want peach and strawberry and dulce de leche and chocolate and cream in one cake. And she'll like figure out how to make it. So I still do it for my kids. And so I ask them what cake they want and I bake it myself. And it's now a joke because they come up with the most complicated thing. They're worse than me. They come up with the most complicated things. One time my daughter asked me for, I don't know if you guys have seen, like it's like a, you know, like you make pancakes, but instead of stack them, you like roll them into each other with cream and like you keep rolling it and then you cover it and make it like a ball, like a huge ball. And then you cut it and it's just, so I one time stayed until 3:30 to make that cake. I love it. And it
Sounds
fell apart.
delicious.
It was like, it fell apart.
And I'm getting hungry being nude. Like now it's like lunchtime. I'm getting very hungry.
Start with dessert first.
Exactly.
Love
After
it.
30, you can do that. After 30, you can definitely eat dessert anytime.
There we go. Well, I love it. I love that your children have taken this as an opportunity to challenge your culinary baking skills. So, I'm, you know, growth is good, Gigi. Growth is good. But next question that we want to ask you, since you know Mother's Day was a couple weeks ago, and you know we're here to celebrate you mothers. You know, I want to ask you what's something that you yourself, but also hope that Latina mothers, especially with all that's going on in the world today, what's something that you hope that they, you know, carry with them every day and remember, you know, to get through some of these hard times that we're seeing.
Yeah, I think particularly Latina moms, we're really hard on ourselves. I think we're always asking if we are doing enough, or, you know, were we like too lenient or were we too harsh? And I think that so many moms that I know, including myself, like we are really doing the best we can with the information, with the resources we have. And I think that recognizing that and recognizing that you cannot have or give it all at all times. You can't have it all. I'm a believer in that. But at different times with different people, right? And I think that we have just been sort of told and then assumed that, you know, we just put so much pressure on ourselves. So I think that's something I wish that we were better with ourselves, like how we take care of other people, you know, how we do it to ourselves. And it's really hard. I don't even know how to do it well, honestly. I feel guilty. I don't go to my kids like parent conferences oftentimes because I'm working or doing this or doing that, and then I feel terrible. And I try to like compensate by like chaperoning a trip with like 12 people. It's like a bad decision, but it's out of guilt, you know. It's not because I want to do it. So I think that would be something really important that I also need to learn, right? That we are really trying to do the best and that we are really holding our communities together. Like Latina women are particularly huge decision makers in our community. When you look at who makes decisions on access to healthcare, you know, when to see a doctor, when to spend the money to get medicine, it's Latinas. You know, what type of clothes, where do we shop? What kind of food do we get to eat? You know, what is the best that we can do with what we have? It's always Latinas, you know. So I think that, you know, look at the entrepreneurship, look at the number of people voting. It is always women. So just, you know, loving ourselves a little more and loving each other more.
Absolutely. I mean, you mother so many other people, and sometimes you forget to mother yourself, right? And show yourself that love that you're giving, you know, to not just your family, but to the community. So that's an important point, Gigi, and I hope that message is received more so from our community.
You know, going into what Kyle said, that, you know, you are a mother to many in the community. You know, how has motherhood shaped your approach to leadership?
That's a really charged question, I think, because I see in my kids the willingness and curiosity and potential, right? To step up, with courage and, boldly and all of that. And at the same time, the context in which my kids operate and understanding sort of like the potential liabilities and just consequences of actions oftentimes is missing. So, it is both to me an inspiration and it brings me so much hope to see my children, interacting in the world and how they do it in a way that's so insightful that I would have never imagined doing, right? And I was, a pretty good student and kid, but I'll tell you a quick story. So my daughters go to public school, high school, and I think Hal knows this. But they have figured out with their friends a way to keep the presidency of the high school in the hands of Latinos for 4 years now. Right? Like they had this entire strategy that they did with their friends in which they were going to run. The other one was going to be vice president. The other one's going to be treasurer. Then they're going to switch and then they will pass it to each other. Right? And so now my youngest daughter just got elected president unopposed, right? Because of this whole 4-year strategy that they put together. And I'm like, this is amazing. How they are doing. Can we do that? For our Latina seat? Can we do that for other seats? Right?
We need to get them in on our electoral work.
Exactly. Right. So that's super exciting. And at the same time, they are so curious about issues and they're like, you guys are doing nothing to advance. I'm like, you don't understand the political context we're operating. You're, may not understand that the way that our teams may have different documentation status. And there is a very real responsibility to put people's lives at risk because you're minors, right? You don't understand it. So it's both. It's learning from them how they are absorbing everything and actually implementing in their lives. And at the same time, the value of political education and context, that helps you use that courage and that interest and that will and capability in a way that's responsible, right? So it's both. So yeah, my kids are awesome. They're awesome to me.
And we're going back, staying on your the topic of your kids. Vamos a ponerle un poco de sazón, hablarlo en español.
Okay.
Me imagino que si tus hijos son bilingües.
Mis hijas, sí, son bilingües.
Ok. ¿Qué alguna lección que hayas aprendido de ellos, aparte de crear su plan de 4 años para seguir siendo presidente en el estado? ¿Alguna otra que le hayas aprendido a tus hijas?
They are really unafraid of their reflections on things. I remember one of my daughters. And it doesn't mean that they don't get in trouble, right? Because they do. People are not used to it, particularly, right? Like you guys maybe don't know me. Like I'm 5 feet tall, right? Like I'm not a big person. So usually people don't expect that. And my daughters are like that. So I remember my daughter was in elementary school and people kept talking about human, rights and human. And she was like, excuse me, why are we just talking about men? You say human. That has a word for men. Why aren't we talking about women? They're like, no, it's included. And she's like, why can't we just say men and women? Why does it have to have this word that is only men? And I'm like, oh my God, you don't have to fight this one. You're 10 years old. Or, I made a joke one time and it was a bad joke. Era una broma en español, me olvidé que estamos hablando en español. Y mi hija mayor me dijo, no deberías hacer esas bromas si tú eres amiga de la comunidad LGTBQ. Eso no está ok. Y como estaba en español y a veces, tú sabes, el contexto es diferente. Yo le dije, sabes qué, tienes razón, pero, yo me sentí horrible. But, they are not afraid to hold us accountable since they were little. And I think that's something that we struggle with because as Latinos, we're told, no le hables a tu mamá, que te tire la cachetada, whatever, la chancla, lo que sea. I'm not saying you have to be disrespectful, but, honestly providing feedback and say, this actually doesn't sound like who you say you are or say you do. So that's pretty cool.
Look at them holding you accountable, Gigi.
Imagínate, también me critican mi ropa y todo. Me dice que parezco de siempre de los 90, and I'm like, pero soy de los 90. Well, I'm gonna look for the rest of my life. 90s mom.
That's funny. I love that. But you know what, Gigi? I think that speaks to the kind of home life you create, where you like, because like I think about like my abuela, and like nobody would ever like she could probably be wearing like some raggedy clothes or whatever that were in fashion in 1970, but no one would dare say anything.
Claro, yo tampoco no le hubiera dicho nada a mi abuela. Claro.
Yeah.
But they have no shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these generations, what are you gonna do with them? But I want to ask you too, as thinking about the family, but also the work that you're doing at LCF, what would you say are some like valores or lessons that you grew up with or have instilled in your own family that you bring with you to the workplace, and that you hope to see mirrored in at LCF?
Yeah, so in my family life, and I try to be like this also professionally, right? We're not really religious in my house, but we have these pillars of how we are, right? And one is, whatever you do the best you can. The second one is, you treat people how you want to be treated, regardless of who they are. And the third one is, when you do something, you include everyone. It's like very simple, right, for us. But I try to do the same in my work, in like the culture. But then we also try to sort of up it a little bit. And I am really a believer in just restorative justice principles. And, so I believe strongly that we are much better as human beings than the worst thing we have done. We all make mistakes. And I also believe that, and I do ask our team a lot, and I ask it of myself, because I do think that our families are doing so much with what they have. They are doing just such incredible work. They deserve a team that does their best for them, right? Like, we reply with the best care and level of, equality. So I do ask a lot. And so, ask a lot, but also provide a lot of support. And so that's something else that professionally we struggle with. Like, what does that mean? How do we continue to give people opportunities, but also hold them accountable to deliver their best in a responsible way, in the best quality, with the best quality possible, because our people deserve it, right? And we did not organize a nonprofit to be mediocre and to do just the bare minimum. We want to do it our best because our families deserve it. And then how do we support our team? So that's, those three sort of pillars of our work. And then that's the type of, organization that we want. We want everyone to feel cared for, valued, but also have clear expectations that would expect them to do their best.
Yeah, and that can be a tough balance to find, but I think it's an important one that, that obviously, you're saying you're intentionally working towards, of demanding the best out of everyone and the best input from everyone, while also doing everything you can to support and empower them as they do their best, and also showing grace, because we all make, like you said, we all make mistakes. So I think that's something that a lot of times we give lip service to, but it's great to see that you living that.
Well, you have to ask our team to see how well we're doing. That's what my intention, right? But at the end of the day, you have to ask the team, to sit. Maybe they'll say like, "Oh, Gigi, like una pesada." I'm sure they do. I'm sure I am. But it's with like my intention is
with good intention,
deliver like excellent programming and service.
Absolutely.
Through our conversation, you've been talking about all the people that you have to take care of, your daughters, LCF. So, but for in terms of self-care, taking care of yourself, what is a non-negotiable for your well-being?
this is going to sound like such a stereotypical Latina thing to say, but like my kitchen needs to be clean. It does.
I get that.
Like I need my kitchen clean, and like on Sundays, like I need to wake up on Monday with my house organized.
Yes.
Right? Like I need my clothes, but like I need to feel I have order, some type of control. This is probably toxic, right? Because it's about control. Probably it's okay. We're friends. I need to have some. I feel that I need to have some type of control because it's like life is so crazy, especially a year like this, and it helps me to see that I can provide for my daughters, like folded, clean clothes, that my kitchen is clean, and that kind of thing. I think it's really important. It is really important to me too that I'm able to take long showers with hot water, because I didn't grow up with hot water. Like we didn't have it in my family. I don't come from a family that had money, and I just hate it. Like it was so cold to take a shower in winter. Sometimes I didn't take showers. It was so cold. So now it's like one of these luxuries that I so much appreciate. Be able to have like long hot showers, and sometimes I have a tub, so sometimes I take a bath. Sometimes on Fridays I do emails from my bathtub. So if you email me, I may be doing that.
Just from the bathroom. It's self-care routine is very
like in the
important.
afternoon, yeah. So I think that's what I do.
But I hadn't thought about the kitchen being like clean, like being a Latina thing. But I
Con el
feel that.
trapito ahí, limpiecito, al lado del sink, ¿me entiendes? Que ya, you close the kitchen, you're not cooking, you're not doing anything, it's clean.
Nobody can step into the kitchen.
Nadie, ya. It's
Yeah.
closed.
Well, I'm
So-
loving
Go ahead.
emails from the bathtub. I clearly have not been maximizing the potential of my home office, so I'm learning something from you.
Pones tu mesita, and your laptop, and it's just like very relaxing because I don't have a pool or anything, so okay.
Yeah, there you go.
And Gigi, for our new listeners that are mothers and are just learning about all the work that you do, LCF, GALEO, what advice would you give to mothers who want to involve their children in the community so they become better citizens?
Yeah, one thing I learned recently that I thought, oh my God, I never thought about it, is that we need to start treating boys and girls the same way. Because oftentimes it is us moms who say, ay, las niñas maduran más rápido. Las niñas, we don't. Is that we are held a different expectation level.
Mm-hmm.
Boys can still play, be dirty, whatever. Girls are like, no, tienes que ayudarme a limpiar, tienes que ayudarme. So I think number one, if you want to create a better society, we need to do a better job and stop justifying sort of why boys don't know how to cook, or they can't like make their bed, or they're dirty or whatever, because that's like basic, right? So I think we need to start there. And then I think for kids to be involved, a lot of us are immigrants, right? Like me. And we may not have had the political education, the civic education, and really the trust and belief that our voices can make a difference. I certainly didn't, right? I grew up in Peru, and I never thought that justice could be served, for example, in the country. I didn't think that my vote would have a difference. But our kids are likely citizens. It is their opportunity, their right, right? To participate in democracy, especially because they have lived in their own bodies and minds what it is to be affected by policies and not have a voice. Because likely the parents have not been a citizens, or if they are, they didn't have a lot of information to make decisions. So I think it is one more responsibility, but it's also their right and their privilege to exercise it and keep us all accountable and fully engage in the process. Because Latinos are the present and the future of the state. And we cannot complain about, a future or a present that we live if we don't actually work for it. So I think that's really important for kids to recognize how much more opportunities they have that their parents have. And what are they going to do with that? It's really important.
Guys.
Yeah, absolutely. No, our community's got to be engaged, and we have real power, and we have the potential for more. I mean, we're 10% of the state's population, right? And a little less than 5% of the voting population. So, and I will say, Latinas increasingly and consistently, I should say, are doing their job, right? Like, I think, we get close to 60% of Latina registered voters participating and voting in elections. Meanwhile, Latino men, we got to step it up. But I know we're running low on time, so just a couple more questions. But I think it's safe to say that the work of LCF centers on these principles of community empowerment and collective care. I'm wondering, do you see parallels between mothering and being a mother, and then also and the work that y'all are doing at LCF with community building? And how would you say that your perspective, if as a mother, if at all, has impacted how LCF responds and does work around healthcare, education, immigrant rights, economic empowerment?
Yeah, I definitely feel like my responsibility, but also like my inclination, right, to be nurturing and to care for people, because we all want to feel seen and care and loved. Like, that's regardless of background, race, ethnicity, language, whatever. And so how do we show care and love for people? It is a very fundamental question. And in many ways for us, it is about giving people the information they need so that they can take the decisions that they think are best for them. But it's also, and this is the beginning of our health and well-being program, there is no wealth without health. For us, one of the big challenges that we have as our community in Georgia is poverty, right? Even though, and I don't know if you check like our State of Latino report, but 3 out of 5 Latinos in Georgia are citizens. The challenge is that the majority of our citizens are under 18. And so what opportunities do they have when their parents are working 2, 3, 4 part-time jobs and barely making ends meet? Not because they're not working, it's because wages are so terrible, right? 91% of our families report income, means we're all working. Latino men are the demographic that participates in the workforce at highest rates than any other demographic. And yet 1 in 5 of us are poor. So for me, number one, we need to have options. And to have options and to be able to choose what we want, you have to have money, right? To choose where you want to live, what school, to send your kids. Can you afford to take time off to vote? Can you participate in your kids' school? Can you buy a coat for winter, right? And so the way we do our programs is we try to stack them so that people have information, data, referrals for health. They have the technical assistance that they need. They know their rights. They also know how to participate in democracy, so that, who you vote matters, because who you vote may give you access to healthcare. Who you vote may give you access to affordable education. So I do think that it is a way to show love and care for a community that's connected to, can we give you what you need, to the best of our abilities, so that you can, thrive and pursue your aspirations. That's sort of how we think about it. A little bit of tough love too, a little bit of tough love. Yeah.
Sometimes we need it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Gigi. We appreciate all this. I'm sure people will love the interview. I know you mentioned the Latino report. Any final words, social medias that you would like to share, events, LCF have coming up soon?
Thank you so much. Yes, the State of Latinos report is the first report that we have done aggregating data, but also stories and context in the history of Latinos. It's in English and Spanish. It's free. stateoflatinosga.org is the website. It's also on our website if you want to, check the deck. The report is lovely. You may see a few faces that that we interviewed. We are also, excited about summer. We have our soccer academy in DeKalb County, where 40 children and their parents are going to be supported. And then in September 13, we have Estamos Aquí Fiesta in All for Worth, which is open, free for the entire community, a full afternoon of dances, DJ music. Come dance with us, support local Latino entrepreneurs.
Gracias, Gigi. Y sí, muchas gracias a todos. El Pueblo Unido regresa.
Gracias.
Bye, Gigi.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
And we are back with Ponte las Pilas. And for this section, we have Diana Howell. Hi, Diana. How are you?
Hola, I'm good. How about you guys?
Good, good. It's great to see you again. Diana was actually one of the facilitators for one of our recent GIL cohort sessions. So thank you so much for joining GALEO again, this time for our podcast. Before we get into some questions that we have, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, of course. Gracias a todos por tener la invitación y por tenerme aquí. Mi nombre es Diana. My name is Diana Howell. I was born and raised in Cali, Colombia. I came to the U.S. in 2001 with my parents and my brother. I was 14, so I came to the U.S. And went to high school here, went to college here, lived in New York, then here in Georgia. And then I've been working in community for most of my career in nonprofits. I worked for the Department of Family and Children Services, and then I also worked doing community outreach and developing partnerships on the corporate side. And I am currently at Georgia Power, recently started a new position as a key account manager. Before that, I was doing stakeholder engagement. So it was still somehow related to being communicated with the community, letting them know about projects that we had going on. Now I get to be on the other side of supporting commercial and industrial customers, but I also still look for ways to stay involved in the community. So I participate on a lot of our employee resource groups. We have a lot of different volunteer activities, and I'm actually on the leadership board for one of them, doing community initiatives, because I wanted to stay connected somehow. Even though I'm in corporate, I wanted to find a way to stay connected to the community. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a mom. I have 2 girls. I'm married, and we all live here in Georgia.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction and for telling us of all the amazing work that you're doing in the community. So first off, as an immigrant and a person who is heavily involved in the community for so many years, I believe you're the right person to ask about some of the struggles immigrant working mothers face here in Georgia and around the country. So what do you believe are the biggest challenges that immigrant working mothers face here in Georgia and around the country, and what are our most significant opportunities?
Yeah, so Gigi made mention of a couple of things. So number one, as immigrants and as mothers, we're sort of working against a system that is not designed for us, and that oftentimes feels not interested in making changes to support us, right? So you look at access to healthcare, which is one of the biggest issues that I saw while working at the Latin American Association, while working at DFACS. There's that disparity where immigrants and women of color don't get to have the same access. And you look at it from even just pregnancy, access to maternal health care is very different for our communities than it is for, let's say, Caucasian or white people and other ethnicities. And that has a big impact on the health overall, right? So if you don't have a health insurance, or you have limited access to health care, you can, if a child gets sick, you're not going to take them to a doctor, because then you're going to wonder, do I have the money to pay for this? And that can kind of snowball into bigger issues. So we have that. Then we have work policies that are not working for us, jobs that are not flexible. I work with many women who were working many hours to earn low wages. They couldn't take time off if their child was sick. If they took time off, they were penalized for something like that, right? So now, I know I'm privileged of working at a company where I earn vacation time, where I have sick time, and I see the difference. I can take off saying, hey, my child is not feeling well, I'm going to take time off with them. Then also, as immigrants, you're navigating the educational system. I remember when we came to the US, my mom and my dad didn't know what it was to navigate the system. My mom was very educated in Colombia, but this was completely different, a whole different language, a whole different setting. What is high school? How do you prepare for college? SATs and applications for college, scholarships and all of that. So I had to learn how to do that myself with, help of my teachers. What are the other challenges? Of course, as Gigi mentioned, the poverty part of it. When you are just making enough to survive, it doesn't allow you to have the flexibility to invest in your children's even extracurricular activities. Like I can when I first had my kids and I started looking at different activities, yo me quedé sorprendida con el costo de ponerlas en algún deporte o cualquier actividad y decía yo, si para mí es difícil pagar esto, yo no me puedo imaginar cómo es para otras familias que no tienen dinero extra. So those are some of the challenges. But then on the flip side, I would say our women are very resilient, right? Whether it is because we have to, or it's just part of, life, but our women are very resilient and we become very resourceful. We become, you become very, kind of on your toes of saying, okay, plan A doesn't work. Let's go with this other plan to kind of solve whatever issue or adversity that comes your way. And I think that that's a strength, but I also feel like we need more support for our women, for our mothers, so that we can all continue to grow and also help our children grow and explore their potential to the maximum.
And as we mentioned, this is our continuation of Mother's Day episode. So first of all, happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you.
So what's the hardest lesson that leadership has taught you about motherhood?
Well, I would say motherhood has taught me that I cannot control everything. Many times we feel with the pressure that Gigi mentioned before that we have to do it all, or many times from our ancestors and mothers and grandmothers, we have been taught that we have to be strong and you have to do everything, and that you don't need to ask other people for help. And one of the things that even though I'm still trying to figure it out is understanding that there's some things that you just have to let it go. You cannot control every single thing. And in leadership, that's also very important because you cannot control everything, but you can create a system or a support system where you can delegate things that can help you kind of make things happen, right? So even if you are not able to sometimes go to kids' activities, I can tell my husband, like, hey, tag, you're gonna have to go to this because and I'm not gonna be able to do that. And then yes, you have to deal with some of that guilt. Sometimes the guilt comes directly from the community. Like I remember when I went back to work after having my kids, I was working at the Latin American Association. So I was working with a lot of Latina moms, and they were like, you don't feel bad about leaving your child and having to go back to work? And so you deal with some of that guilt, but then I was like, I want to continue my career, and I can delegate things to other people and have my support system that can help me make it happen.
And this next question actually goes a little bit more into that, because, I've heard some people say, women can't have it all. As a leader, how do you respond to that?
I think it depends on how do you define having it all, right? Does it mean everything is going to be perfect? I will say absolutely not. But it doesn't mean that you cannot have a good family, that you cannot have a meaningful life, and that you cannot pursue your careers. I think you can have all of those things. One of the things that I heard from a leader recently is it's not about life balance, but more so about life choices. So on a daily, you're making choices, and as a mom or as an individual, you're constantly having to reevaluate, like, okay, what are my values? What is important to me? What are my negotiables? What are my non-negotiables? And then making decisions based on that. And what ends up happening is sometimes work is going to be up here and family kind of slides a little bit. And other times it kind of like balances back off. So Sometimes I may have to spend extra time at work where my kids may not be happy with that. But then when I'm able to step back, then I pour more into my family, right? Doesn't mean I'm gonna have fresh home cooked meals all the time. No. But there's also my husband who is a wonderful cook and loves to cook, so that I can say, hey, you got this. Sometimes it just means I may miss some activities or miss some things like teacher appreciation week. And I'm like, ooh, totally miss sending something to a teacher. And one of the things that I learned from working with different leaders is that we have this idea that you have to be perfect, right? That everybody, or even people with like senior VPs, are perfect. And that is not true. They also make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes. And sometimes it's good. It's okay to drop those balls. But what do you do to come back and, okay, let me pick up these balls and now let's fix it and do better next time.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, having it all or not having it all, it's perspective. And so would you say you have it all?
I would say yes. And so part of me having it all is having a good relationship with my girls. Yes, I have a teen that sometimes, the two of us is like, she's like a mini version of me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, mi pobre mama. But I try to make the space where she can come and talk to me about anything she wants. So, and pouring into my family, spending time with them on the weekends, even if it's just a meal, after work. But also working on continuing to develop professionally, right? So even participating in GALEO's GIL, the leadership program, that was something that was important to me because I want to grow as a leader. So taking the time and communicating again with my support system is like, hey, I'm going to need help these days that I want to be doing this. But also being involved in the community is also important to me. So I seek those opportunities to volunteer with, whether it is through work or outside of work, so that I can fill that cup for me, because that fills it out for me. And that way I don't let that go. And then, I also have my parents who I can try to support as much as I can. I'm not always able to help, but I try to do it. So to me, yes, I have it all. But it's because I know what's important to me. I set my values and I say, this is what I'm going to focus on. Sometimes that means also not being able to participate in things that I can, just because it's like, hey, I cannot be at all things at all times. So you just prioritize.
And lastly, what is the best, first of all, what's your best mom memory and how it made you a better leader?
There's so many. I would say let's pick one. So my daughter just started high school this year, 9th grade. And that made me reflect a lot on my own journey as a 9th grader coming to the US. And before starting 9th grade, she was super nervous. Estaba con un miedo de que la escuela es muy grande, ¿qué tal si me pierdo? And
normal anxiety. I mean, starting high school.
Yes. And I mean, we're at a big school. We're at Mill Creek High School, which is really big. And so she was really nervous. So thankfully the school had like a preschool event where you could go and tour the school and kind of walk your schedule. So I went with her and we walked it a couple of times and I was like, okay, do you feel good? She's like, a little bit. And I remember just telling her, it's like, hey, remember, your mom came here to the US knowing a little bit of English. And if I could navigate that high school with a little bit of English, so can you. And I remember a couple things. She was like, yeah, I am not you. And that kind of like made me step back a little bit. And as a leader, so that connects with two things. Number one is understanding that you have different people. Everybody kind of digests information differently. Everybody thinks differently. Everybody approaches problems differently. But at the same time, as a leader, it is our job to sort of motivate them to think outside of their limitations and encourage them and provide that motivation that they need. And so like even in my current role, I help train some of my coworkers who have been at the company for a while. And I always constantly make the point to tell them, you know how to do this. Just trust yourself. Trust that everything will be okay. And like I told my daughter, the worst that can happen is you get lost and then you just ask for help, right? And so just encouraging her to kind of challenge those thoughts. And as leaders, that is what we also can do is help those that may not think that they can do it, encourage them in highlighting the skills that they do have and encourage them to become better people overall or better leaders or whatever it is that they want to do.
Well, this conversation has been great. I feel like I can keep talking with you for hours. But we have our next session. But before we wrap up, thank you so much again for being with us. And again, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much, Anna, and thank you to everybody. And just as a reminder, we all can support each other. Everybody, if we create that support system for other people, if we invest in mothers, then we're building community.
Oye, ¿a ti te gusta pagar precios justos de electricidad, gas natural, servicios de camiones y servicios telefónicos?
A mí me encanta pagar de más. Yo pago de más todo el tiempo.
Ya no somos amigos. Pero para nuestra comunidad que le gusta pagar sus precios justos, tener un buen servicio, se vienen las elecciones de Comisión de Servicios Públicos en Georgia. Junio 17, y para saber si puedes ir a votar, tienes visita mbb.sos.georgia.gov.
Pero ustedes son rigor
mientras vayamos a votar.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is our segment, La Quince Política. I am Kyle Gomez-Lineweber, and we have a very special guest, Councilwoman Melissa Bayardelle, out there in Hiram, not too far away, although with traffic, sometimes it does seem quite far away. But thank you for coming, Councilwoman. I really appreciate having you here with us.
Thank you for having me here, Kyle. Thank you to all that you do on behalf of GALEO for our underserved communities, for our marginalized communities. Thank you for advocating all that you do and taking the road trip through the traffic to come to Hiram so we can recognize GALEO's efforts with the proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month. So that was very special to us last year. As the first Afro-Latina, first non-Caucasian woman to represent the needs of our city, I'm glad to have the support of GALEO. So thank you again for having me here.
Absolutely. And thank you for being with us and supporting us, supporting the work that we do. I want to ask you, first of all, you're the first Latina to serve on the council in the city of Hiram. And that's no small feat. And, there's a lot of challenges that come with, I think, being Latina, running for office, but also with being a mother. So what's a piece of advice that you give any Latina moms or moms in general who are considering running for office?
For any parent, especially mothers, there's interested or show desire to run for office. I have a little echo. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. One of the biggest tips that I can give is be intentional with prioritizing of your family by balancing. You need to try to help. Feedback is turn me up. Says it. So the advice I give is to be intentional with balancing family life and serving the needs of the community. It is rewarding to be able to serve in this capacity. However, it is very challenging as a mom. And I can tell you from my experience, I have three young men under the age of 15. So I have two teenagers at home and a 10-year-old. They're involved in extracurricular activities. So it's very challenging at times to make sure their needs are met while I'm still trying to meet the needs of our community, because I'm very passionate about doing that. So I involve them. They're very heavily involved with serving the needs of the community. They volunteer, and I think it's important to be a role model and to expect that from our future leaders.
That's awesome to hear that, you include your kids in the work that you're doing. And to that end, I want to ask you, how would you say that, you spoke to the challenges that sometimes can come with running for office or serving in office as a mom, but how would you say, motherhood has shaped the way you view your role in the community and shaped the way that you, carry out your work as a councilwoman?
Absolutely. Motherhood has taught me to operate with kindness, compassion, understanding, and patience. You need a whole lot of patience in serving in an elected seat. It has taught me that you treat people with fairness, no exclusions. It's all about including them in what you do, getting the buy-in from your community, as you have to do as a mom when you want things done. So I carry that over to my leadership role as a community leader. Just understanding the needs, and everybody is different, so you don't treat them the same as you don't treat your children the same.
Absolutely. And I wonder if there is a lesson or value that your mother, who I've actually had the pleasure of meeting, she's a very sweet, very lovely lady. I just love that you bring your family out. It's so nice. But what's something that you learned from her that you carry with you as a mom and maybe even as a councilwoman?
So many lessons learned from my mom, and of all the strong women in my family, starting with my grandmother, who was the rock of our family. She instilled the values of putting family first and operating with integrity. Stand tall. You don't always have to be backed up by people, the opinions of the public. Just do what you have to do. As a child, she always taught me to give without expecting to receive. And my mother instilled those values as well. As an immigrant to this country, she had very little, and she worked very hard. And she taught me, whether it's a meal that you serve, it's something, you don't do it for recognition. You do it to make an impact in your community. We were raised, and she raised us, my siblings and I, in affordable housing. And this woman worked so hard. And what she taught me is that you put your best effort first. You do what's right, even though it's not, it may not be popular. It may not be backed by many people, but do what's right. She taught me so many things. She's always giving. The little that she had, she would always give. And to this day, she's still helping our community. And so I get her to help me out with my efforts as a leader, because she's able to connect, because she's fluent in Spanish, and I am fluent in Spanglish. So she is my bridge to my community, and so are you, GALEO.
Absolutely. As that bridge. And I'm glad your mom can too. And she's got a great energy about her, and is a very, very nice lady, much like yourself. And so I want to know, what's something that you've learned, from being a mom, or, being in community with others, that you think, policymakers, whether it's, other council members or, policymakers in the broader space, what's something you think they're missing that maybe they wouldn't miss if they spent more time listening to moms and folks like yourself?
That's a great question. I believe policymakers tend to forget or miss out on the smaller things that make a difference. As moms, as parents, we don't struggle, but we are challenged with having to balance school, extracurricular activities, work, putting those all together. And for that, I was a very strong advocate in our city to ensure that our community had access to our meetings, which are held at 6 p.m. Most people are still commuting back home from work, or some may be heading out. At one time, prior to me being elected, in order to access the recorded session, you would have to pay $5 for a DVD. However, even though it sounds like it's not a big deal, $5 may be somebody's last five, maybe to put gas, maybe to feed the family. So I understand how poverty impacts that. I understand how schedules make it difficult to be involved, and I believe in public engagement. So I challenged the policy, the practice, and we are now able to provide accessibility to our citizens, our residents, our constituents, where they can access these recorded sessions on our website. It is now on YouTube. There is no fee to the public, which I don't believe you should have to pay for accessibility. And those things alone, those challenges as a mom helps me understand the needs of my community. Being a former educator, I taught English as a second language. So I'm not fluent in Spanish nor Haitian Creole, but my parents immigrated from Haiti and Santo Domingo. And having that background allowed me to serve in my capacity both as an educator and as a policymaker. Because understanding those needs, and as a former educator, I launched a program called Read to Lead, where I go into the schools on a monthly basis and I read a book that's age appropriate based on the grade level, and it's related to local government. My hope is that these small steps that policymakers don't understand, small things like accessibility to these meetings so we can have an increased public engagement. Well, the Read to Lead program, because many schools have stripped the curriculum of civics. Well, if you don't know about civics, you can't change anything, right? So these readings that I do on a monthly basis is intentional to try to increase civic engagement. So I extended that program into the student citizen recognition program, where 6 students are recognized by the elected officials and the public at our council meeting, which is televised now. And we get them into local newspapers. We get our business leaders involved. They provide complimentary passes. But the reason is not just to showcase these amazing future leaders. It's also to get the families involved, to let them see what we're doing and build a curiosity. And hopefully they'll be part of the decision making. Too many decisions are being made without the voice of the people. And I'm here to change that. And I'm confident we can do that together as a community and with the efforts of GALEO.
100% agree. And I think, I'm just so thankful that the city of Hiram has a leader like you, because it's important that, we make, our city halls and county commissioners and state legislatures more accessible to the people so that their voice can be heard. And you pointed out, a couple of things that might easily be overlooked, but actually have a really real impact on our community's ability to engage and be a part of the process. So thank you for that. And we're running low on time now, but I do want to give you one last opportunity. Is there any thoughts or a piece of advice that you'd like to give to the moms, the grandmothers who are watching right now, and moms out in Hiram?
Okay, to incredible mother figures in the city of Hiram, I see you. I see your struggle. I see your commitment to our families, to your families, to our children. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for volunteering. I see you at the schools when I'm there volunteering. This is what we need. It's a community effort. So thank you. You are enough. The little that, we can see from the outside is well appreciated, because it takes a village to raise these children, and they are our biggest investment. So thank you, moms, for doing all that you do. I know you're not wearing your cape, but I see it there.
And thank you, Councilwoman Bayardelle, for all that you're doing. Build community, support your community, advocate for your community. You're the boy mom on our episode today, so thank you for dealing with all the challenges that I'm sure come with that, and of course for supporting our work here at GALEO. It's been a pleasure having you on with us.
Thank you, Kyle. May I share one thing that my children have been a part of that been collected, which is like a well-kept secret? There's a PAGE program. And the PAGE program is offered during the 40 days when the legislative session isn't taking place. And our children are are provided with the opportunity to serve as a page for any state legislators of your region. I think it's really important to get that information out there because we need to groom our children to become leaders. And this is a platform, an opportunity, a learning experience, authentic learning experience to get our kids engaged with. So please share that.
Absolutely. No, that's a great opportunity and one that can sometimes get overlooked if you're not necessarily aware of it. Thank you, Thank you, Councilwoman, for joining us. And I'm sure we'll have you back on the podcast soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Have an amazing day.
And we're back. Hi, Carla. I think you're on mute right now.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, just go ahead and mute it. Don't feel rushed. No, we can always pop some jarritos. This is like if production want to cut it off. This is not the Oscars. Just take your time, okay? So no rush at all. So this is Latinos en Acción, and I have one of the best chingonas in Acción that I've met. Carla, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, my name is Carla Romero. I'm a community organizer for Hall and Forsyth County with GALEO. And I have two wonderful children. I got involved with GALEO back in 2020 when COVID happened. I just know we were shut down. And I started out phone banking. I had watched my brother do the work with GALEO for a while. And I started canvassing and I got meaning to this work that I started doing out of nowhere. It just wasn't even planned. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And like I said, I have learned a lot from you, me working with Leo and hearing your story. And then when I heard, I'm like, oh, you're a mom, like, wow. So jumping into that already, like, how do you balance your community engagement with the responsibilities of being a mom?
Sometimes I really don't know how I do it. I know that I work best under adrenaline and a good caffeine rush. But overall, I will say that when I can take my kids to these events, it's a plus because they learn so much from community cleanups. After the first community cleanup that I took my son in, when I kid you not, I saw him picking up some trash. So I was like, wow, he's soaking this in. And they're just soaking in the civic engagement part. And I would say it's been a blessing being able to balance being a mom and do the civic engagement work together.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And then for another moms that can relate, I'm sure that they will be able to relate. But what are some of the challenges?
Okay, y'all know, I'm pretty sure this is no secret. But childcare, if we got childcare, we're all gonna be outside pretty much. So, but childcare is the main thing. I know there's a lot of resources during the day, but my main challenge is because a lot of the things that I go to are in the evening time, and daycares usually stop around 5 or 6. So I rely on family with that, and thankfully I have them to support me in those times.
So we'll be on a short break, and we'll be right back just for final words. And we're back, everyone. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much, Kyle. We can go for 2 hours. 1, 2.
Not with all the tech issues we've been having today.
But it's fine. It's fine.
It's live.
Yeah, exactly. This
is grassroots, folks. Grassroots podcast.
Yes, it was grassroots podcast. And Kyle, any final messages?
Just want to again highlight our Latino Power Hour next week. Please be sure to buy your tickets now. And then, of course, follow us on our social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
You can find us at I am Galeo or at Galeo Impact Fund.
Yes, if you didn't buy anything Mother's Day, first of all, how dare you? But if you I her a ticket to the Power Hour, her outfit, and then the ticket for the Power Hour for her to enjoy music, drinks, and everything. Anna, thank you so much for joining us. Any final words?
Thank you guys for having me. I mean, I feel bad that the first time I'm here, it's when there's technical issues. So I hope it wasn't. I cursed the show. No, but thank you so much for having me. I left this conversation, this whole show, feeling so inspired with all of the amazing mothers that we had, and thank you to all of them for being a part of the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Alberto.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Anna.
And what el Pueblo Unido. Thank you, everyone.
Hi.